Alright, hello guys, welcome, or if you've already seen my channel before, welcome back. I am the Philadelphia Whovian, and for this video, well actually guys, also before I begin, I apologize. Sorry if I have not done a video in a long time. It's simply because my camera was on the fritz over and over again. I tried to do videos repeatedly and just kept not working out. So hopefully this one will go through. Okay, so as you saw by the title down below, the title sequence, this video is actually about Runaway Bride, the second Christmas special of New Who, and starring David Tennant as the 10th Doctor and Catherine Tate as Donna Noble, who will go on to become the main companion in Series 4 of New Who. So, again, as you saw by the title, this is a story about how it was actually way worse than you think, Runaway Bride. And the general plot of Runaway Bride, I'm going to give it really quickly, is simply that the Doctor has just lost Rose Tyler as his companion. Donna Noble shows up in his TARDIS, being whisked away from her wedding. It turns out she was doused with Huon particles, and they're in the TARDIS. They are fatal. If they don't get out of her, she'll die. And it turns out her fake fiance, he had been poisoning her that entire time because he wanted to see the universe, so he had a pact with Arachnos, the Empress of the Arachnos, who is a humongous spider, and there's a spaceship of her children who are inside the center of the known planet, Earth, and that's pretty much the gist of the story. Okay, now fan reaction to this story, well, usually fans, when it comes to this story, from what I remember, or seem to overall notice, is that usually they do not like Runaway Bride. And the main criticism they give to this episode, why it sucks so bad, is Donna Noble, Catherine Tate's performance, and how it's very annoying and very grating to hear. And while I see what they're talking about, I admit it's very annoying. It is. It's very grating. At the same time, I can't say it's a bad performance because for all I know, that's how a woman, especially a woman like Donna Noble, would react in that situation. It's a complicated situation. And also, for all I know, Catherine Tate could have been told to act that way. It's like the equivalent of, like, Catherine Tate's performance as Donna Noble, for me, is like the equivalent of David Tennant's performance in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And, oh god, his performance in Goblet of Fire. I'll be very frank with you guys. Usually, I don't like criticizing actors' performances, but I will do it if they're very good actors, which is ironic because you're like, oh, well, why don't you criticize a bad actor's performance? Because when an actor is consistently bad, it just feels like bullying for me, and I hate being a bully. I much rather, I'm comfortable with insulting an actor who I think is very good because I know they're talented. It's not me bullying them. It's just, hey, you know what? That one role got away from them. And I think that's what Catherine Tate possibly could have been. She's a great actress. She really is, who has a different type of acting genre. She was usually used to doing different type of acting genre or mode of acting where you had to probably act to the point where you hit the back seats of that theater, or on a TV show you had to hit the back seats of the people, the camera in the background. But here's a problem: you're acting for those back seats in the theater when the camera's right there. Again, it's like David Tennant's performance in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, where it's like this is hammed up to the maximum. Oh, dear Lord. And again, I know you hardcore David Tennantans will think, oh, yeah, he was great in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. But honestly, this is coming from someone who blatantly admits that David Tennant has more talent in general in his pinky finger than I do in my entire body. David Tennant's performance in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, you could only love it as if you were so in love with David Tennant that if he made a big turd in a toilet, you'd reach in and kiss it. Sorry, but that's just the reality of it. Dear Lord, he literally makes this face when he gets captured. It's like, dude, why didn't you just play the character the way it is in the book? He literally did this. It's like, dude, what are you doing? This is film acting 101. Have you embraced realism? But that being said, why I still, like, not only do I love David Tennant's acting style because of his acting style, but at the same time, for like David Tennant, I can't blame David Tennant's performance in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire no more than I can with Donna Noble, played by Catherine Tate, because for all I know, they could have been directed to do it like that. That could have been the way they were told to perform. If that's the case, It's not their fault. They were doing what they were told. So I'm not sure what was going on in the background. For all I know, Catherine Tate played the role the way she was directed to. In that case, it's down to the director. And all we know is Catherine Tate, she came around. By the time she came to her official run as the campaign, she overall had very good performances. And I'm going to go with that. So yes, I admit her performance is grating. It is agonizing to listen to sometimes. But one, for all I know, that's how a woman would act in that situation. Two, she could have been directed that way, the way David Tennant could have been directed that way in Goblet of Fire. Just the way it is. So even though people usually blame Runaway Bride for that's the reason why they think it sucks so bad, that's not my reasoning. My first reasoning why, I'm going to start from the more superficial reasons why I do not like it to the most intense reasons why I don't like it. And before I begin to give my reasons, I want to make it very clear, guys. Guys, I have very low standards. Like, when it comes to a show, you have to have an episode that's really bad for me to dislike it. That's why when I really don't like something, I really don't like it. Because I'm like, if you did not reach my standards, you got problems. Even though, ironically, sometimes my standards are completely different than everyone else's standards. But what can you do? You know, some of us, I'll get to that later. But, alright, so my first problem with Runaway Bride is, I used to criticize the Christmas invasion, I still do, because it began the cycle, or began the tradition of doing a Christmas special every single year. And I found that to be a sin that was hard to forgive. But Runaway Bride is equally at fault. Why is it equally at fault? Because of the fact that, wait a minute, even though Christmas Bride was the first Christmas special, imagine if we were in a world where Runaway Bride was never written, where Runaway Bride never premiered as an episode, and therefore we would never gotten Voyage of the Damned, Christmas Carol, The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, etc., and so forth. The Christmas invasion would have began and ended with the Christmas specials. But Runaway Bride, being what it is, it cemented the Christmas specials, and therefore Runaway Bride is equally at fault for creating the Christmas specials as Christmas Invasion itself. That's my first problem with it. It's like, wait, if Runaway Bride never happened, then the Christmas specials never would have happened. And for clarification, there are two Christmas specials I really do like. And there are other ones I just hate. And there are those where I'm like, okay, they're not terrible, but honestly, I could have done without it. Or the parts I do like could have been used for a different episode. It didn't have to be a Christmas special. It was obligatory. So that's my first problem. I just did not like the fact that Runaway Bride actually cemented the Christmas specials. There you go. Second problem I have a problem with is the representation of the Doctor. In this, we get a Doctor who literally commits mass genocide on the Rachnos children because of what the Empress of the Rachnos did. And then, this is why this is bad, because at the end, Donna Noble says to him, you need to travel with someone because you need someone to stop you. Which means we get a Doctor, I said it before, I'm repeating myself, I admit that, who is becoming now an emotional cripple. And this continues all throughout Series 3, where he can't make any moral decisions or any sound decisions on his own. He needs someone to rein him in. Which means we would get a Doctor who's now a bit of a psychopath. He needs someone to rein in his psychopathic side of him, because he can't control it apparently. So we get a Doctor who is now beyond control. He needs... or not beyond control, he can't control himself. He needs an external force to control himself, to control him. And that's not a very good thing. That's a little scary when you stop and think about it. That's making him 2 steps away from being almost like a serial killer. And also, even though, and this is coming from someone who is arachnophobic, I hate spiders. They scare me to death. Even I, in my most arachnophobic stage, couldn't help but think, wait a minute. You just mass murdered, committed mass genocide on an entire species of kids. I hate spiders, but those are still kids. You killed all these kids, dude. You committed infanticide. And you're the same Doctor who a year later said in The Doctor's Daughter, genocide is something that you would never ever allow to happen. Like you said, it's over your dead body it would happen. But this is showing a massive inconsistency with the Doctor, especially in the first 4 years of New Who, where the Doctor would say one thing and would turn around and do a complete other. You can't say you would never commit genocide in Doctor's Daughter when you did commit genocide in The Runaway Bride. You can't do that. And I would understand maybe it could possibly happen if the Doctor had verbalized his revelation that he was wrong to commit genocide at the end of Runaway Bride, but he never verbalizes this. So there's no verbal, confrontation of what he did. And not only that, he's also a massive hypocrite inside that episode itself. Why? Because after he committed this mass genocide, where he did not even kill the Empress of the Rachnos, the one who was really committing all these atrocities, he killed the children. It was the Master who killed the actual Empress. But after all this, when he returned Donna Noble to her home, and he said to Donna Noble about her husband, or fiancé, and how he died, she said he deserved it. The Doctor looked shocked that she said that. As if he was flabbergasted, she would say something cold-hearted. This was after he just committed mass genocide. Here you just committed mass genocide. Then, right over there, you are mad, or you're shocked at this woman who said her fiancé, who was willing to let her die and be killed, and betrayed her and was deceitful, had no love for her whatsoever, was willing to let her die. You're shocked she said that he deserved it? You're being a hypocrite, Doctor. And that's my problem. We get so hung up on what the 10th Doctor says, we don't notice what he does, and if it's consistent with the things he says. I'm okay with a character being flawed, but when you use your charm and your seductive abilities to hide that you're not consistent with your own principles, you are a hypocrite, and you're actually scarier. You're one of the scariest people in the room because no one notices what you really are doing. That's my second problem with this episode. It shows the inconsistency and the problems with the way the Doctor can be depicted in that stage of New Who. But my third and main problem with this episode, are you ready for this? This episode technically cannot exist. You're thinking, how can that work? What is she talking about? I'm talking about the fact that it's inconsistent with an episode from Classic Who called Doctor Who, The Underwater Menace, with the second Doctor. You see, in that episode, the Doctor and his companions, Ben, Polly, and go down, and they're in Atlantis. And there is a master, like a insane scientific mastermind named Zarloff, who agrees to materialize Atlantis, but get it to rise to the surface again. How can he materialize Atlantis and keep it from being under the ocean? By decreasing the level of the ocean and the sea. How is he going to do that? By drilling or going to the core of the planet, and therefore the water sinks to the core of the planet, and thus the water level lowers, so Atlantis becomes visible, and to the planet it's now available by land. And the second Doctor points out this is insane. Why? Because at the center of our planet is the core, a burning hot nucleus, which means that if you literally were to dig a funnel hole to the center of our planet, and the water goes down to it, and it meets with the nucleus, you blow up, you get a bumbling, boiling over, and what happens is you end up accidentally, or incidentally, blowing up the area around it, or a large portion of the planet. Runaway Bride, at the center of the planet is the Rachnos ship. That is physically impossible, not only from science itself, which says at the core of our planet is a burning hot nucleus, or core, not nucleus, but core, but the second Doctor even confirmed this in his adventure. He wouldn't have said it if he didn't know for a fact that the core of our planet was this. It's there. You contradicted a story because you just didn't want to be consistent. That's Runaway Bride for you. Which means when the 10th Doctor had drained the Thames of London into this hole, what should have happened was when it met with the center of the planet, boom, he would have blown up London. If you want to be consistent with reality and with the show, he would have blown up London, which means the 10th Doctor is not even aware of his own past adventure. This is showing a problem I've often noticed sometimes with New Who, where they're not busy, where they're so into doing their thing, they didn't make sure they were consistent with the show that was, and always the facts that was being presented from the show that came before it. This is not good. Literally, and here's the only way you could justify Runaway Bride's existence, by saying the second Doctor was wrong and he was incorrect with our planet having a core that's burning hot. So burning hot that a ship could not exist there. The Rachnos ship could never have existed there. It couldn't have. You're saying, you're deliberately just making that adventure invalid so you can validate Runaway Bride's existence. That's not fair to the Underwater Menace. Just so you can validate this episode, you want to invalidate a previous story. It doesn't work like that. And if I'm incorrect about my facts about that was what Underwater Menace happened there, and you can tell me in the comment section, but from all that I've researched, that's what happened in the Underwater Menace. And therefore, Runaway Bride contradicts that to a T. Which means the only way that adventure could have happened is if the Doctor forgot all the science he knew, and the head writer at the time who wrote the episode forgot the Underwater Menace existed, or didn't even watch the story, or didn't care that he was contradicting the story from before. And this is, I'm talking about this being the ultimate problem because this is a continual pattern with New Who, where there are inconsistencies. From the very first episode, Rose, we see the Doctor easily get knocked out from, he gets hit by a tentacle from an Nestine. Inconsistent. The Doctor has, time and time again, it's shown he could take something of that stature and then not be knocked out so easily. Number one. Then you have, in the Series 2, you have the Impossible Planet and Satan's Pit, where the Doctor falls. When he's going down to the pit, it stops, so he unhooks himself, and he falls like 20 or 30 feet, a great height. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a very similar height to what the Fourth Doctor fell from in Legopolis, and he died and had to regenerate. How can he survive this fall from a height when his previous incarnation died from a similar fall from that height? Again, you can correct me if I'm wrong about the height similarities, but from what my research is, they were similar heights. And then in Smith and Jones, an episode I'm fine with, some people don't like, but I'm fine with. I'm not so blinded by that episode to know the inconsistencies, which is, it makes it seem like when the Doctor, he amped up the radiation to kill the slab by 200%. When he amped up the radiation, and he said, and Martha said, wouldn't that kill you? She said, no. He said, no, it wouldn't. And he just expelled the radiation from his toe. That does not work. Because of the fact that in the first Doctor's era, in the very second episode, the Daleks, the Doctor suffered from radiation poisoning, just like all the other his companions did. And unless I'm wrong, he was one of the quickest to get radiation sickness. And you can always say, oh, well, he developed a radiation tolerance, a tolerance to radiation as his incarnations went. But you're making assumptions to justify inconsistency. That's not. He suffers from radiation poisoning. He really can. Then in Smith and Jones, you had the Doctor talk about as if he'd never met William Shakespeare before. And again, I like Shakespeare Code. I like Shakespeare Code a lot. But the fact is, in Shakespeare Code, when he mentioned about how he was excited to meet William Shakespeare, it was implied that he never met him before. But he did. The Fourth Doctor talked to Sarah Jane Smith about how he met Shakespeare before in Planet of Evil when they were just making mere conversation. The Doctor has met William Shakespeare before. And then in The Voyage of the Damned, the Doctor says, I'm 903 years old. There is no way at all the Doctor in Voyage of the Damned could have been 903 years old. And even if you want to give the argument, well, he's going by a different measurement of time than his previous incarnations. The Sixth Doctor, when he said he was 900. The Seventh Doctor, when he said he was 953. Even if you want to say, he's going by different, measurement of time, you're making assumptions. You're making assumptions to validate something that we were given no validation on. These are inconsistencies, and these inconsistencies have been happening since the very beginning of New Who. But you have to respect the show you are reviving and do your best to be consistent. And the fact is, Runaway Bride is an amalgamation of everything that is wrong in New Who. You have a story that started a trend that I just do not like. Then you have it the doctor just being presented in a way he would never been before, and then you have a plot line, a story that cannot actually exist because it contradicts another story, and it contradicts the science, the real science that previous story was talking about. Runaway Bride as an episode literally cannot exist whatsoever, unless the doctor forgot his own adventure and the head writer forgot that story. And this is not me attacking Russell T Davies. He's done things I love. He's done things I have not liked. The way Moffat has done things I loved and things I did not like. I'm not attacking him. I'm attacking this situation. It's okay for fanfiction writers and one-off writers to be inconsistent. But when you are the head writer, it's your job to be consistent with your episodes and to correct the new writers coming in when they are making inconsistency error. That's why I can't blame Shakespeare Code or The Impossible Planet and Satan's Pit. I can't blame those writers. I blame the head writer for not picking it up. But I'm not attacking Russell, I'm not bullying him. I'm just making a statement. So, that is my video of why Runaway Bride is just way worse than you think. Because actually, it's an episode that if you want consistency, it should not exist. And if I'm wrong, please feel free, like when I say I'm wrong, objectively if I'm wrong, if I missed something in my research, feel free to let me know. I admit I can miss things sometimes. I can miss things. Don't be afraid to let me know in the comment section. And if you like Runaway Bride, it's fine. Don't let this video take that away from you. I admit it's my least favorite Christmas special. It is. But don't let that take it away from you. Don't let it deter you. It's fine. Just don't get mad at me for pointing out something I have seen and I have no choice but to have seen. So thank you guys so much for watching my video. Hopefully I'll have a more positive video for you next time about something I like. But thank you so much guys. Hope to see you again very soon. Bye.